It began with a leak, not from a whistleblower or an anonymous deep state exile, but directly from Elon Musk at 3 a.m. Eastern. Without any prior notice or explanation, Musk posted a mysterious phrase on his X account, "Operation Doge is live," with no context or links. Within minutes, the internet exploded. Nancy Pelosi spent decades gaining power behind closed doors before Elon Musk pulled the curtain back in front of the entire nation. Exactly 12 hours later, Musk reappeared on a stage in front of what appeared to be an abandoned mission control room from the Apollo era, but this time the screens weren't showing rocket trajectories. Instead, they were showing financial charts, line graphs, maps, and something else's faces. Reddit threads lit up Telegram channels, speculating about everything from alien technology to mass arrests. When Musk spoke, the room fell silent, despite his unreadable demeanor as he stood in the middle of it all, arms behind his back, flanked by analysts and plainclothes agents. He responded, "This is not about politics. This is about betrayal, and I've remained silent long enough." The 8-minute live stream was enough to start a firestorm. The backdrop was real, an abandoned launch coordination center near Cocoa Beach, Florida, just miles from the Kennedy Space Center. After NASA downsized, the facility was bought privately and left dormant until Musk quietly restructured it as the headquarters for a financial intelligence task force he'd been preparing for years. Musk then revealed the existence of a covert federal partnership, codenamed Doge, tasked with investigating what he called the systematic laundering of taxpayer money under guise of foreign aid and humanitarian initiatives. He didn't immediately name the partnership, but the tone made it clear that this wasn't a theory, just an accusation. The names began to flash. A former transportation secretary, an Oregon senator, and 6 aides with ties to charitable organizations in Ethiopia and Myanmar, and then the unexpected main screen was filled with Nancy Pelosi's visage. Musk's tone remained the same. Between 2014 and 2021, Representative Pelosi was connected to moreover $327 million in foreign transfers, none of which were revealed in public documents. Many of these funds can be traced back to accounts held in Luxembourg, the Seychelles, and Cyprus. He paused, and some of those accounts are in her niece's name. People watching from all over the nation were incredulous. These funds went through intermediaries registered as disaster relief organizations and religious charities. The same policy that supported measures for climate-funding government ethics and foreign aid reform were now being presented as a hoax. Under guise as a public service, a scammer and financial manipulation expert, but the documents kept flowing. They tied back to a wider network of secret assets, according to forensic data that revealed Utah real estate purchases and coastal primary residences purchased under shell companies and promptly repaired, flipped, or rented to government contractors. News anchors were shocked by a spider web that implicated not only Pelosi, but also a number of her longtime colleagues. Some networks stopped airing the feed completely, while others doubled down and aired expert panels that sought to discredit the documents before anyone had had a chance to thoroughly review them. But millions had already seen enough in just 1 hour. On social media, Pelosi offshore was trending. People started calling for openness. An Albuquerque young woman watching the stream from her phone at work told a friend later that it was like someone kicked the door open, and instead of gaslighting us about what's behind it, he just let us see everything. This was the first time grassroots groups launched FOIA requests, and even those who didn't like Musk weren't sure what to make of it because no one else, not even seasoned journalists, had presented anything this detailed or audacious. Musk didn't say anything else. He never looked back when federal agents took over the room behind him that day. The live stream ended with no outro or Q&A, just silence. But the documents that were leaked that night changed everything. The place didn't look like the nerve center of a federal operation. Instead, it looked like it had been frozen in time. But if you looked past the rusted metal doors and the old launch countdown clocks that were still hanging for show, you'd see something completely different. The entire area is rewired with 21st century technology patched together from private aerospace contracts and federal surveillance resources, with tables covered in monitors and cables running across the floor. This was the center of Operation Doge, and Elon Musk led it like a silent conductor to the majority of the team. He wasn't Elon. He was a leader not out of ego, but rather out of clarity. When someone called him lead, it meant Musk was coming into the room. When someone called him lead clear, It meant he was moving away. He didn't give speeches or pep talks. Instead, he asked questions and expected sincere answers. A huge curving LED wall, 60 feet across, was located across the main room. It had dozens of live feeds that were updated in real time, including bank activity logs that indicated nonprofit transactions. Scanning of encrypted files pings using facial recognition from surveillance footage. One woman was standing at the front of the room. Riley Sonnet, a former military intelligence officer in her mid-40s, quit her government job following a scandal about which she never spoke and about which no one inquired. 3 years earlier, Musk had hired her, and today she works as a point person for forensic data. Riley responded through Musk, "Walk me through the Pelosi branch again," and Wardy turned his head. She then tapped a touch panel to zoom in on the Shell account. On paper, Bloombridge Relief Fund says it conducts orphanage services in Malawi and is supported by 2 nonprofit organizations in San Francisco. However, when the screen appeared with 3 lines pointing to an unremarkable business in Luxembourg, she swiped the transfer channel. Asset holdings by Furnico, we verified it through voter registrations and 2 previous credit card bills. And she flicked to a side panel. Riley continued to be registered by someone named Emery Ellison, who also happens to be Pelosi's niece's married name. They changed it after 2017, most likely to avoid attention from the same woman on the same birthday. 2 statements appeared, one from a Monterey restaurant and the other from a Stockholm private aircraft reservation. Musk narrowed his eyes at the screen that the jet company paid Furnico. Yes, exactly the same. He didn't smile the week that $4.3 million arrived at their Cyprus branch. Instead, he merely murmured good, and then he moved toward the war room table, which, in contrast to everything else in the center, was made of modern carbon fiber with a matte finish and could seat 3 people. Sasha Brand, a cybersecurity specialist who previously breached a Chinese telecom network, and a former DOJ investigator. Musk's attorney Sasha leaned forward with her arms crossed, saying, "This is going to blow back. They won't just sit there and let it happen. They'll personally attack you and add the WJ guy, accusing you of being obsessed and destroying democracy." He nodded and tapped the edge of the table twice. "I'm not interested in spin. I'm interested in consequences," he said, looking up at the ceiling where a small drone hovered silently recording everything. "These people built their careers on hiding behind the fog of humanitarian language, and I want the fog gone." Riley cut in, "There's more," and she flipped the TV once more. "A transfer from a Relief for Yemen project that goes through 6 layers and ends up in a Beverly Hills property trustee is one of the awards connected to Pelosi's fund that Maxine Waters' niece co-signed. Even for ADC, Sasha's hand motion over her hair was daring. Musk claimed that when they cease being afraid of being seen, they become lazy. The area was silent, except for the constant hum of cooling fans and the occasional beep from the monitors. Riley muttered to herself, "We're not just pulling one thread. We're tearing the whole quilt." Musk remained silent, but when he stood up and lined up the warrants, he said, "I want a coordinated hit Phoenix, San Francisco, D.C., and Malibu, and I want them simultaneous. You're not going to give a heads up to Congress." When the black SUV pulled up, there were no sirens or dramatic entrance, just silent, fast-moving agents stepping out with purpose. Federal marshals, DOJ liaisons, and a few faces without any badges at all. In Phoenix, a quiet address in a gated community was breached with a flash warrant. Sasha asked, "I just did," and he walked away, heading toward a dim corridor leading to a secure conference room. No guards followed. No aides trailed behind, just a silhouette disappearing quietly under the emergency lighting. Musk knew that paperwork wasn't enough, and that action had come next. 2 agents were hauling out cases full of scanning equipment, while neighbors watched out their windows. One of them was pointing toward the garage. On the cliffs above Malibu, a modest-looking home with heavy security gates had its locks disengaged by a federal override. The property was bought in 2019 by a shell corporation connected to a climate initiative that was allegedly headquartered in Sudan. Inside each location, agents followed a clear list of laptops, encrypted drives, financial ledgers, secondary phones, and hidden safes. 2 luxury cars with license plates linked to a clean energy nonprofit that hadn't filed a real grant in 4 years they weren't excavating. Instead, They were verified at a Capitol in Washington, D.C., and they knew exactly what they were searching for. When two operatives entered a lawmaker's office without knocking, the tension eventually broke out. Although she hadn't seen the documents yet, Nancy Pelosi was already tense after being told by her aides about Musk's stunt. She was in the middle of an interview with a CNN anchor when one of her assistants leaned in and said something that made her freeze. When the live interview ended, Pelosi stood up, took off her microphone, and marched out of the room. Why hadn't I been told that she hissed as she passed her staff? I want names. I want to know who. Authorize this. The agents weren't rude. They were firm. One of them displayed a sealed warrant that had already been approved by a Colorado judge. The courts knew better that we were here to gather information related to financial transfers made through congressional grant programs between 2015 and February 22nd. One of them stated that her office was still receiving aid, and aide stood frozen, unsure what to do or say. One of them picked up the phone, but was informed right away that any attempt to remove or destroy digital records could result in obstruction charges. Pelosi's eyes narrowed. This is an error. He's playing you. But the agents weren't paying attention because they had a task to complete across town. Reporters swarmed the Capitol steps, some irate, some thrilled. One person asked if Nancy Pelosi was actually the subject of federal investigation, while another shouted if there would be indictments today. No one responded inside Musk's operations center. As agents verified seizures, Riley observed the live feeds from a corner screen as the green lights turned yellow. Phoenix received a full mark. In D.C., Malibu had discovered 2 vaults incorporated into the house's foundation. One laptop was so severely encrypted that it needed to be sent to Quantico immediately. Musk crossed his arms and stood quietly at the table. Sasha moved to stand next to him and held her phone, which they had already begun spinning. She added that MSNBC had just gone live with a panel that claimed this was a tech totalitarian power grab. In the meantime, back in the Capitol, Pelosi was pacing her private quarters when her phone vibrated. It was a call from someone she hadn't spoken to in years, so she ignored it. Then it buzzed again, this time from a longtime lobbyist. They have the grants to Yemen files, too. You need to shut this down. Musk didn't even blink. What did I say would happen? They'd come for your character, she replied. They're scared. This isn't just political, she mumbled. This is war. But even in battle, timing is everything. Musk currently held the upper hand. But Pelosi and her friends weren't going down without a fight. Less than 6 hours passed before the headlines changed from what started out as queries. Elon Musk's revelation of congressional fraud swiftly changed into a completely new target for tech billionaires. Democratic symbol Elon, Musk uses government power as a weapon. Although the coverage wasn't consistent, the objective was for all news outlets with even a remote chance of influence to start disparaging in its opening piece. CNN displayed old tweets from Musk asserting that he had long harbored resentment for the political establishment. Within hours of MSNBC raising doubts about the constitutionality of his federal partnership with Operation Doge, a group of members of the House of Representatives issued a joint statement denouncing Musk as a danger to democratic norms and institutional balance. Musk did not reply to press, to X, or even to the few allies who were texting him behind the scenes. Instead, a single message appeared on the official Operation Doge website. White text on black facts don't care who's nervous inside homes across the country. In a small town outside of Tucson, a high school teacher named Denise Farrow stopped her lesson to ask her students what they thought of the Musk situation. Half of the class shrugged. One boy says dad thought it was about time someone did something. Another girl said her mom cried watching Pelosi get grilled on live TV in Tampa. And a retired firefighter watched the congressional hearing replay in silence. When his son asked him what he thought, the man simply pointed at the screen. When Musk held up a government grant form with 3 signatures blacked out, he said, "That's how they hide it in a Chicago suburb." 2 brothers got into a heated argument over dinner. One brother claimed Musk was a patriot, while the other claimed he was a narcissist with a God complex. Their mother was exhausted and silent, and she cleared the table without saying a word, which was exactly what Musk expected.